My name is Strickland. I'm 30 years old, all right, 30. I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at 11 weeks old. When it comes to the history of CF in the family, I do know on my dad's side, he had 3 cousins that had CF in New Mexico that we didn't really know about at that time, but he later remembered, oh yeah, I did have 3 cousins. They are no longer here, but that was like back in the 70s and 80s. One lived to be 7, the other 8, and the other 27, so I can now say I'm the longest living member of my family with CF. I was my mom's 3rd kid, all right? So she has this baby and she knows how to take care of him at this point. And according to her, this is all secondhand news. You know, I can't remember at 11 weeks. I was, I would say, experiencing a failure to thrive because I was, as she said, pooping too much. I wasn't digesting any of my food. She said I would be pooping while she was feeding me. I know that she took me to a couple of different doctors that weren't giving her answers that made sense. So I know she bounced around, and then someone told her to take me to Children's, I believe. And that's when we had the sweat test done there. And that's when the diagnosis came through. And I was paired up with the doctor at Children's Hospital in Detroit. She never let me have a poor attitude or a poor mindset, or when we did receive bad news, it was never allowed to be a mood that lingered. So she did a very good job at making sure things stayed positive. I think that was probably the biggest difference maker for me. It was almost as routine as brushing your teeth, which not everyone does, but you know, I just had to do these things, and if I didn't, I was in trouble, and I didn't want to, you know, when I hear Stephen Paul, I'm in trouble, and I would hear that if I didn't do a treatment, so I would have to get that done. And you can't hide doing the vest. That thing is loud. The treatment machines are loud. Couldn't get away with anything, you know, so I had to be perfect. But I eventually got over it, but I would get mad. I would get really angry sometimes about it. I couldn't, like, get ready in 5 minutes and go to school. Like, if I miss my treatments, it's not going to be a good day. And if I wake up late, it's already a bad day, so that's like a double-double there. So it wasn't fun. School got really hard, especially like in junior high and high school, where the schedule was stricter, the work was harder, and you know, you started to have goals and things that you wanted to do with your friends, and it got in the way a lot, and it really was very frustrating at times. But after school, I had a big group of friends. We would play something every day. And it was usually football. Sometimes dodgeball, but it was always football. And it was tackle. And there was always a good like 12 to 14 of us, and we were very competitive. And I was always the quarterback, luckily, but I would play receiver a lot. But you know, you had to play defense too, you know. So you could just notice how much I was coughing more. Like after a play, I would need a second to catch my breath, or I would do the play, or I would just like cough right after, you know, so it was funny. My friends would always rub me, hold on, let him cough first. Don't give him a false start, Steve has to cough real quick. So funny things like that would happen. But eventually, you know, I had to stop playing less and less, and eventually we all got older and stopped playing, but it was a good thing we did. I used to play soccer, indoor soccer. I played soccer for about 12, 13 years, and I can't play soccer anymore. There's no way, I can barely run. I'm only running if I'm in trouble. You know, when it comes to compliance and having strict parents, it was always easier said than done when you're younger and they're in charge of you and you live in their house and you live by their rules. You know, being compliant was its own journey once you started, you know, going out on your own and not having people with you. I moved out right after high school. I moved out when I was 18 with 2 friends, my friend Mike and my friend Donnie. And we had this place in Shelby Township. It was a party house. We partied. We were the first ones moved out of high school. We had a fair amount of friends, and every weekend was a party. Even some of the weekdays were parties. So my compliance fell off a rock when that happened. That was a weird time because it was right after I got done with a lengthy mycobacterium regimen. So I felt like I was free again a little bit with just having to do the simple treatments and not all this complex stuff. It was 11th grade. And I got a call saying I needed to go to the hospital now, because I just had a CF appointment at Children's, and they took a culture. And I got a call like 5 days later, like, hey, you guys need to come see us again. We have to get you with a new doctor. We'll explain everything when we see you. And that's when I was told I caught mycobacterium avium. And at the time, I didn't feel much differently, but it started growing like a lot. And they didn't treat it right away. And then they were like, you know what? We are going to treat this after like 2 months, because I started having like really bad night sweats. Like that was the thing. I would wake up and I'd be soaked. And that was one of the main symptoms of mycobacterium avium. And I would always get feverish at night. Yeah, you know, I was used to getting a PICC line at that point and doing IVs at home for 10 days to 2 weeks at a time. But this was a permanent fixture in my care. I had a PICC line put in, and I had to do a certain IV antibiotic that was done 3 times a day at 7, 3, and 11, okay, like a machine. So I had to do that along with 4 different oral medications and 1 other nebulized medication. And the protocol for this bacteria was, once you get a negative on the bacteria, you got to get a negative on it for 12 straight months. I finally got a negative, it was like 13 months into the treatment. And luckily it stayed negative. I had to keep doing the treatment, so I was on the IV for 25 months. So I finally cleared the mycobacterium. Gosh, you know, that was my sophomore year, and I got rid of it mid-junior year. That's what happened. Because my senior year is when I caught the next one. My mom was like, yeah, I just got a call from downtown and you need to get hospitalized. Like, not go see a doctor. They wanted to admit me. And I was like, what now? They're like, there's something else growing. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, I was off the hook for like 6 months, okay? and like senior year had just started. So I go down there, I'm in the hospital, and then they tell me you have mycobacterium abscessus. And I was like, come on, man, you know, what's that? They're like, it's like avium, but worse. And I'm like, okay, great. Thanks for marketing this for me. It was like I had like a little vacation from it, but it never stopped. And the abscessus was rough. When I was treating it, didn't feel like anything was getting better for a while, because I got way worse night sweats. I was burning up almost every night. My mucus was like this really dark, like, it was nasty. You know, you're coughing it up and you taste it. And it's just like, it was so bad. I had way more mucus coming up than I'd ever dealt with. And I was pretty scared on this one. My lung function was going down. I went down to like the mid-40s. I got rid of abscessus 11 months into it. And the protocol was still the 12 months. So I did it for like 2 years again. And I finally was off the hook for that. And I think we know what happens. Made it another 5 or 6 months. And I didn't even have to get a call to know my night sweats were back. And the abscessus was back. My mind never got a break. Physically, definitely never got a break unless I was in the hospital. Because at least it was a nurse coming in, setting up the IV. Small things, you know, it was a lot, it adds up. And then when I got told I had abscessus for a 3rd time, I refused treatment on it. I said, I'm not doing this again. I spent 4 of my last basically 5 years. And at that point, it was really like 6 of my last 7.5 years doing an IV every day. I'm tired of it, and now this one just won't go away. It goes away for a minute, and then it just kept coming back. I refused treatment in 2016, 2017. I didn't start treatment until 2018. And I felt this tickle, like, you know, like wasn't mucus. And then I coughed. I thought it was mucus at first, and I coughed it up, and it was just like a chunk of blood. And then I just felt like a rush coming up, and I was like, oh shit, and blood just started pouring out of my mouth. And that was really scary. They did like a CAT scan of my lungs and the x-rays and all that, and they were able to see some new cavities that weren't there. And they're like, yeah, this is what abscessus does. Coughing up a lot of blood like that was scary. For a minute, like you can't breathe. And you're like drowning in blood. And you know, I've read a lot about what CF can do, and I know that's one of the ways we go, is the blood becomes too much. So that kind of scared me straight a little bit. And my lung function was like low 30s at this point. So it was like now or never. And they were, you know, trying to talk to me about transplant stuff. And I knew I had to get that bacteria under control if that was ever going to happen. So There was a lot that I wanted to keep going for. You know, when I went to school for a little bit, I went for small business and entrepreneurship. I always knew I wanted to start a business. And a big reason behind it, like the main reason behind it, was because I had CF. And if I was able to run my own business, I wouldn't have to worry about working a schedule around my CF. Like, you go to an employer and you have especially when you're doing IVs 3 times a day and you have to go to the hospital, it's hard to have an employer that understands that or is willing to work with that. So I always wanted to have my own control. To me, I had a lot of goals. I wanted to make sure I saw my friends get married. I wanted to see my sisters get married. I wanted to start a business. I had a lot of things that kept me fighting, but there were very low points. Giant helmet has been a wild ride, right? My cousin in Canada is an airbrush artist, okay? And he used to show me pictures, like when we were a kid and we were growing up, of like these goalie masks he would paint for hockey players. And I always thought the artwork was so cool, but you can't see it that well because they're so small. So my brain literally thought, you know, what if there was a giant helmet? We worked on this together and we were able to get like a hockey mask sent to us, and we had it measured by this fiberglass company, made a 2-scale mold, and then once it was made, my cousin was like able to paint it, and that's where it started. We took the first hockey mask to a park in Toronto. That's like this is a small hockey event, and that was it. Someone from Molson was there, and they bought 6 for the Olympics, and then all of a sudden, like, there's one being put in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and you know, there's being hung up at sports bars. There's one in almost every Canadian Tire now. Like, it just happened really, really fast. And, you know, at first it was just going on in Canada, you know. But then we were like, we need to get into football, so we made a football helmet. And then here in Detroit, I was able to get one to the Lions, you know, as a gift at first. And, you know, like with the Red Wings, it was the 25th straight, like, playoff appearance. And, you know, that was the first goalie mask that we ever did in the States, was the Detroit Red Wings, my hometown team. It's perfect. It was really fun seeing all the fans line up and take pictures with it, and I knew they would have those pictures forever, and they would post them, and you know, they were making a memory out of it, and that meant a lot to me. So we did the same for the Lions and the Tigers, and we did the major Detroit teams, and they're still all there today, which is a testament to, you know, how wonderful they are. And I think we're going to be able to make the giant helmet a great fundraising tool for many high schools. Year after year after year, it's going to be a piece of art that gives back. An article came out from Yahoo Sports from Dan Wetzel that really kicked it off, like out of nowhere. And I didn't realize it was a national article. This guy reached out and was like, hey man, like, heard about your story, I want to tell it. And I was like, I told you, you know, but we met up, we talked, an article came out, and then all of a sudden I was on a couple news outlets here in Michigan, and all of a sudden eyes are on me a little bit, and we had more helmets come out. We did New York Jets, we did Michigan State, and now I'm heavily, you know, investing in the marketing with the time I have now. Health-wise, I hope I can just run up the stairs at Ford Field and not have to find an elevator or an escalator. I would hope I am a healthy weight. I would hope I maybe get into some soccer or football again with friends. There's a lot that I start to think about, that there's a lot of corners I won't have to cut anymore. I could finally relax and get ready for the next life with new lungs and really see how far I could take Giant Helmet.